Hi guys, my name is Anna and today I'm going to be talking about my birth story with my first daughter, Ivy. So she was born 14 months ago and I've since had another daughter, so stay tuned for her birth story also. They're 11 and a half months apart, so I thought might as well do both of them. And my second birth actually turned out a lot different than my first one. So with Ivy, I'm going to start with the day before I went into labor. So Mark and I, my fiance, we decided to go on a walk to kind of like speed things up. I was 37 weeks in 4 or 5 days, I'm not exactly sure. We decided to go walk around our neighborhood, and it was a little bit harder than normal. We were going to go on a longer walk, like a mile or so, to get things going, but I couldn't even finish going around the block. We literally went down our street to the next block and then through our alleyway. And I had some tightening in my stomach, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I had never felt a contraction before. So we come up to our house through the back. I sit down on the couch and I could tell that my feet were a little bit more swollen whenever I took my shoes off. And before we went on the walk, I had to have Mark's help to even put my shoes on. And I didn't think that my feet were swollen. They're kind of chunky anyway. But they were really hard to get on. And then taking them off, I could tell that they were swollen. I didn't really think anything too much of it. I started bouncing on my birth ball a little bit that night, and then we had a regular night, went to bed. I got up to pee once already, and then the second time I got up to pee, which I remember looking at the clock, it was exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. I got up like I normally do, I went, and as soon as I sat on the toilet, my water broke. I didn't even have a chance to pee. So I was sitting there in shock that my water had just broke. I still didn't go pee. I got up to walk to our bathroom, which is just across the hall, and I was leaking the whole way going to the bathroom. And I'm like, Mark! And then he springs out of bed. It's like he knew already what I was going to tell him, like, my water broke. And I never seen him jump out of bed so quick. He literally started putting his jeans on right away. We didn't even have a chance to talk about it. And then I showed him that my waters was leaking all over the hallway floor, because he was asking me, he's like, are you sure? Are you sure your water broke? Yes, I was sure. The water was everywhere. So he finished packing up some last minute things. Oh, I was GBS positive, so they told us if your water breaks at home, you need to go to the hospital right away to get antibiotic. So we finished packing up our stuff, and I got some new clothes on. I took a selfie, and then we drove to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I had one minor contraction, like you could just barely feel it. And then we got there and was checking in, and the lady's like, are you sure your water broke? Like, we should probably check. We need to check to make sure. I'm like, it leaked through my pad. It was dripping down my legs. I had to change my pants again once we got to the hospital. And then once my doctor had checked, she's like, yes, your water definitely broke. And whenever she checked me, I was only 1 centimeter dilated. But everything was just starting, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. They got us checked into our room, and then they immediately put me on Cytotec, which is a tiny pill that you put in your mouth to soften your cervix and get your cervix ready to dilate more. You take that every 2 hours, up to 8 doses. And my first 2 doses, I didn't really feel, like I had regular contractions, but they weren't painful at all. You could just feel the tightening. Watched them on the monitor. I was like, oh, did you see how big that one was? And I didn't think that it would get as painful as it did, because you're never prepared for how contractions are. So I think on my 4th or 5th dose of Cytotec, this had to be at like 6 p.m. of that day, my water broke at 3 a.m., so it'd been a little over 12 hours, and I could start feeling the contractions more, a lot more. They became painful, where I had to breathe through them, and we did just a few weeks prior take a birthing class, and they did teach you how to breathe, and I had to use those. I did not think I would need to use these. They seemed embarrassing to me, the breathing techniques, but you need them, and they really do help you get through each one. They did continue to put me on Cytotec even though I was having really strong contractions. My friends ended up bringing me some food that night, and earlier in the day I really wanted some Panera broccoli cheddar soup, and so my friend Kelsey, she stopped there and she got that for me, but by the time that she got to the hospital, I could barely eat it. My contractions were every minute, and they were excruciating. I had to go to the bathroom quite a lot while I was in labor, and just walking to the bathroom and walking back, I had at least 2 contractions. Just was like 10 feet from the bed to the bathroom. Like I had 2 contractions just walking there, and then 2 walking back, and even going to the bathroom. It was like to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. So by 1 a.m., it had almost been 24 hours of being in labor. They had stopped the Cytotec, and they were about to put me on Pitocin because I was only 2 to 3 centimeters dilated almost 24 hours in. So it was a really slow labor. I asked if I could have the epidural, and my nurse was like, well, they usually don't like to give the epidural until you're further dilated, but I'll go ask. So she's like, do you want to take a shower first? You can take a hot shower, but you can only be in there for 20 minutes because you can overheat. So I told her I'd go take a shower. That did help a little bit, but like I said, I wanted the epidural. So she finally got the okay from my doctor that I could get the epidural, but it took about 45 minutes for the anesthesiologist to come in. If you're thinking about it, contractions are every minute, lasting 2 minutes long. There's like no break, and that's for 45 minutes, and it was just miserable for me. Like, Mark was getting stressed with how much pain I was in. He was exhausted. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. We were all exhausted. I just wanted to sleep. He just wanted to sleep, and I wanted to feel no pain. So the anesthesiologist came in. He's going through all the paperwork with me. I just say yes to everything because I'm in so much pain. He tells me not to look at the needle. He's doing everything behind me. And then Mark could see it. They tell you to sit off the bed and have your feet in front of you, and then you have to like bend over and arch your back a lot. And I was ready. I was ready for the pain to be away. But the anesthesiologist could not find the center of my spine. He put the needle in 7 different times, which honestly, I couldn't feel any of that. They numb you for that part. I was just frustrated because my contractions kept coming. That was the most painful part for me. I could feel him moving around, or feeling my spine up and down. And then he eventually had me tell him where I felt the center of my spine was. So once I felt like it was the center of my back, he put the needle in there. And then after everything was said and done, the 7 pokes, he told me that my spine was like turned inward and to the left. The epidural, now that I know with my second daughter, it only takes like 10 minutes. This took probably 30 minutes to get in. But as soon as he put the medication through the epidural, I was numb almost instantly. It was the most amazing thing I had ever felt, and I almost passed out right away. Like, they were talking to me, the nurse was talking to me, the anesthesiologist was talking to me, and I was just falling asleep. Completely falling asleep. And so everybody left the room, but they have to come check on you every couple hours. And they didn't put a catheter in for my urine. They didn't leave it in. They have to drain your bladder every 3 hours. So I was happy after that. I was able to get almost a full night's sleep. And then in the morning, around 10 a.m. I'd say, I started feeling a lot of pain. I had told the nurse, I feel like my contractions are coming back. I've pushed the more epidural button that they give you. It wasn't working. And I was in a lot of pain again, but not as bad as it was before the epidural. And the last time, so I had like 4 nurses through all of this. My last nurse had drained my bladder pretty early in the morning, and I could feel the catheter. And I told her, I'm like, are you supposed to feel that? Because I can pretty much completely feel it. She's like, I don't know. She told me she didn't know if I should feel it or not. So she drained my bladder, and then there wasn't very much in there. So she told my next nurse, the one I had for the morning shift, that I didn't have very much liquid in my bladder, so she waited longer than the 2 to 3 hours to drain my bladder again. And I could tell by that like 10 a.m. mark that my bladder was full, but I wasn't completely sure because you just don't feel things the same as you do before the epidural. I couldn't completely tell. I even like tried to push to go pee, and I'm like, oh well, if I tried, then I must not have to if nothing is coming out. But I asked the nurse to drain my bladder, and she did at 11 a.m. So I waited like an hour feeling this pressure to tell her that I think my bladder is full. So she drained it, and they have those, it's like a bowl that they fill your pee up into, and then they rinse that out. It completely filled it because my bladder was so full. And it did hurt. Again, it hurt as if I had no epidural at all. The catheter hurt as if I had no epidural at all. And Mark was holding my hand the whole time because it hurt. And as soon as my bladder was empty, I just looked right up at him, and he could tell by the look in my eyes that she was coming. The baby was coming. So he told the nurse right away, he's like, Anna thinks the baby is coming right now. And she's like, oh, well, okay, let me check. And I'm like freaking out on the inside. I'm having a literal panic attack because I'm in so much pain down there that I don't know what to do. I didn't expect to be in pain because I had the epidural, and it was just a complete shock to me. So I'm holding Mark's hand, I'm trying to breathe, do my breathing that the class taught you, and I can't. I end up not breathing like that, like you're supposed to at all. And she checks me, and she's like, yep, the baby's head is right there. Let me go tell your doctor. So she goes and gets my doctor, and she has a student with her. So I'm like freaking out. She's like, is it okay if so-and-so is here for your birth? Well, this so-and-so person actually ended up birthing Ivy. She told me to push with each contraction. I could only feel pain down there. I couldn't feel the exact pain in my stomach, so I couldn't feel my contractions, but I could tell that it hurt really bad down there. I didn't know when I was having contractions. I just pushed basically the whole time. and she was out within 15 minutes. That was probably the scariest thing I'd ever gone through at that point. I didn't know how to feel. And then also before all this, I didn't know that I was gonna cry. I cried immediately when she came out. And people tell you that the pain goes away as soon as your son or daughter is born. And it does. It does. It's the best feeling when they put your child on your chest. So after she was born, they have to birth the placenta and everything. And I only had an abrasion down there. So I didn't tear, I didn't need stitches or anything. Thank goodness. I guess I'm lucky. But yeah, so everything was pretty intense, but it wasn't unmanageable. In the moment it felt like it. All I wanted was her out. But everything went the way it was supposed to, and I guess it could have been worse. So I'm happy with the way it went. We stayed in the hospital for just the 2 or 3 days, and then we got to go home. But she was born at 6 pounds 1 ounce, and she was 19.5 inches long. Her full name is Ivy Lynn Nelson, and now, yeah, she's the best. She's 14 months old now. She's actually taking a nap right now, and talking about this right now makes me just want to go hug her, makes me want to cry. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be making my other daughter's birth story next, which went a lot different than Ivy's did. They're only 11.5 months apart, so technically they're Irish twins. Well, they are. So if you guys want to hear her story, just subscribe. I should be posting that here in a few days. I think I want to start posting twice a week. I did also make an Instagram. If you guys want to follow that, I'll have it linked. Go ahead and give me a follow. I'll be sharing our everyday there. And you guys can go and comment. I'm not sure. I know I watch other YouTubers and their comments are off, but I don't know how this is going to be. So if you want to go talk to me, just go to my Instagram. You can message me. You guys can always give me video ideas, but I'm going to be making Nova's birth vlog next, so stay tuned for that. Bye guys.